Last Tuesday, Rafael Nadal, an undisputed titan of the courts, commanded a Madrid auditorium to accept an academic honor, only to field inquiries regarding Carlos Alcaraz. His initial response presented a comforting facade, yet the underlying truth revealed profound complexity, for whenever a legend of Nadal's extraordinary magnitude determines it necessary to shield the reigning global champion following consecutive defeats, that very protection inherently transforms into the main spectacle. This analysis strips back the intricate details of Nadal's statements, alongside the perspectives shared by Mouratoglou and the remarks offered by Kcha, demonstrating how these three voices collectively decode the truth about sport's most intensely monitored 22-year-old sensation, deliberately or otherwise. That fateful Tuesday morning, within the majestic halls of Madrid's Polytechnic University, an esteemed honorary doctorate was bestowed upon Rafael Nadal. He delivered an eloquent address and offered his gratitude. Yet, prior to his departure, a reporter questioned him regarding Carlos Alcaraz's recent defeat to Korda, alongside his preceding collapse against Medvedev, and the controversial sideline broadcast that had captivated audiences for days. Nadal's subsequent reply, calculated, deeply affectionate, and fiercely protective, ignited a media frenzy, with global tennis publications broadcasting the remarks within 60 minutes. The sensational headlines materialized effortlessly. The icon shields Alcaraz, urging the masses to cease worrying, declaring sudden panic utterly senseless. Consequently, the broader sporting community absorbed these superficial summaries, agreed, and proceeded forward. However, deliberately analyzing Nadal's complete discourse, stretching far beyond the comforting platitudes, unearths a dramatically contrasting and fascinating reality. A revelation that exposes significantly deeper truths regarding Carlos Alcaraz's current psychological condition than those oversimplified media summaries ever could convey. The narrative demands careful attention, as thoroughly dissecting this intricate situation requires steady patience. Consider the initial environment, for its significance heavily outweighs initial assumptions. Nadal was entirely absent from any casual audio interview, nor was he casually occupying 15 minutes during a standard sports television segment. He anchored a prestigious scholarly gala in his native land, encircled by journalists, receiving ultimate recognition for a legacy symbolizing the absolute zenith of Spain's athletic history. He possessed every conceivable justification to completely ignore the Alcaraz inquiry or simply offer a brief, two-sentence political deflection before departing. Instead, he launched an extended, highly detailed defense of the reigning world champion throughout multiple inquiries, addressing the recent defeats, dissecting the controversial sideline broadcast, analyzing the crushing expectations placed upon Alcaraz by Spanish supporters, and detailing the immense burden of achieving such monumental glory at 22. Such intense participation within that specific environment by that iconic figure never materializes simply over a trivial or insignificant inquiry. It occurs solely because the matter carried such immense weight that Nadal deemed it required an authentic response from the sport's most authoritative voice. Right now, that definitive voice is entirely his. So, what exactly did the legend articulate? He declared that agonizing over a pair of defeats remains fundamentally illogical. He argued that anticipating flawless year-round victory from an athlete who recently conquered the Australian Open, holds 7 major titles, and ranks first globally, borders on pure delusion. He proclaimed that the entire Spanish nation and the global tennis community ought to be relentlessly applauding Alcaraz while demonstrating profound appreciation for his spectacular contributions, given that his staggering achievements at 22 would have remained completely inconceivable just 30 years ago. He suggested that spectators had perhaps grown desensitized to greatness, emphasizing that he personally never surrendered his profound grasp of how excruciatingly challenging Alcaraz's accomplishments truly remain. Every single word resonated with profound generosity, calculated wisdom, and undeniable authenticity. Suddenly, the legend addressed the infamous resting period broadcast, the precise moment showcasing Alcaraz admitting to his team a desperate desire to flee homeward. This crucial moment proved profoundly exposing throughout the dialogue, yet notoriously commanded the least public scrutiny. Nadal affirmed that any individual possesses the fundamental right to experience deep exhaustion or bitter frustration. He observed that the young prodigy, upon reviewing the dramatic recording, would likely regret outwardly projecting the intense vulnerability that he ultimately displayed. Subsequently, the veteran delivered a profound remark masquerading as grace, yet operating as a highly subtle scolding. He firmly decreed that broadcasting such emotional turmoil was utterly unnecessary. One must endure the agony internally, burying it deeply. Carefully analyze that exact phrasing, for the champion wasn't merely sharing wisdom, he was establishing an uncompromising standard. An ironclad benchmark he ruthlessly chained himself to throughout his magnificent career. 22 major championships, 15 grueling years dominating the summit, and enduring the modern era's most psychologically taxing athletic existence, all hinged on silently swallowing that internal agony. This was no mere attack on Alcaraz. His profound loyalty and generosity strictly forbid such aggressive dismantling within a public arena. However, he transmitted an unmistakable warning to the observant few. Succumbing to despair on those sidelines violated his legendary personal code. That quiet revelation speaks volumes. Originating from an immortal like Nadal, the gravity of such words is monumental. Every single person, regardless of their staggering triumphs, retains the universal right to feel completely drained. The reflection suggested that upon reviewing his breakdown, the young champion likely wished he had concealed the agony. Witnessing his public unraveling displeased him, though entirely comprehensible. Yet, outwardly projecting that suffering remained fundamentally unnecessary. They bury that sensation deep within, swallowing it whole. One must anchor that thought, as the narrative will inevitably circle back to it. Initially, the spotlight shifts to the surrounding chatter regarding the young phenom during the 48 hours following the Spanish legend's defense. A singular perspective simply cannot paint the entire masterpiece. Exactly when the veteran champion held court in Madrid, a renowned tactician entered the fray. This was the mastermind behind an American Queen's twilight reign, the guiding force for rising European stars, alongside several other racket-wielding titans. He dropped a digital bombshell, a social media broadcast boasting text that brought the sporting world to a grinding halt. The message detailed an unsettling intuition that crept up during the prodigy's opening clash under the sweltering Florida sun. The analyst noted a chilling absence of the Spaniard's trademark fire. Following a stunning defeat to an American challenger the very next morning, he doubled down, delivering a verdict that borders on either sheer genius or utter delusion. The truth regarding which extreme hits the mark will be unveiled in just a matter of moments. Stripping away all diplomacy, the French strategist declared the young conqueror was simply suffering from utter apathy. According to him, an athlete boasting 7 major crowns and countless Masters 1000 victories globally struggles to muster passion for just another routine battle. The analyst argued that the electric intensity defining the champion's deep runs at prestigious spectacles completely vanishes during preliminary skirmishes against lesser rivals. When everything hangs in the balance against ultimate titans, he ignites. Otherwise, a shadow lingers in his subconscious. A quiet arrogance whispers that sheer talent provides enough leeway to claw back and conquer, regardless of any fleeting mental lapses. Furthermore, the strategist stressed that this psychological trap poses a far graver threat to the phenom's future dynasty than any tactical flaw or bodily breakdown ever could. The true weapon failing is desire. Simultaneously, another legendary compatriot, once ranked second globally, who intimately understands the crushing weight of shouldering a nation's expectations through punishing campaigns, presented an entirely fresh narrative, completely contradicting the prior two analysts. Scrutinizing the sideline footage, this veteran witnessed zero apathy. Instead, he identified profound cognitive overload, a paralyzing fatigue born from surviving relentless gladiatorial combat week after week. A crushing avalanche of perpetual public demands, coupled with the suffocating burden of defending the sport's ultimate throne over 12 agonizing months. The sideline incident was portrayed as a fleeting mental fracture, an entirely organic, deeply human meltdown. It proved inevitable, flashing a blinding warning sign that the prodigy's fragile psyche endured far heavier burdens than it could possibly survive. 3 distinct perspectives yielded completely shattered conclusions. The seasoned idol deemed the faltering acceptable, yet utterly unworthy of his own legendary, unwavering stoicism. The French mastermind diagnosed a sinister motivational rot, painting the young king as hopelessly indifferent toward battles lacking true monumental stakes. Conversely, the compatriot recognized severe burnout, suggesting an unstoppable engine finally overheated after blazing fiercely without a single moment of absolute peace. A tantalizing detail must be dropped into the ether before plunging into the depths of these conflicting philosophies. A hidden anomaly lurks within the conqueror's Masters 1000 track record. Over the past 12 months, a stark visual rhythm that, once exposed, radically shatters the existing narrative, revealing truths those three prominent figures completely failed to grasp. That revelation awaits in exactly 4 minutes. But first, one must relentlessly interrogate the apathy hypothesis, a sensational claim dominating headlines and demanding absolute forensic dissection. At a superficial glance, the argument casts a mesmerizing spell. The prodigy hoards 8 Masters 1,000 crowns, conquering 6 out of the 9 global arenas hosting such prestigious warfare. He already pillaged absolute glory in Melbourne, reigned supreme at Wimbledon, captured New York, and conquered the Parisian clay. Sitting upon the global throne since age 19, this 22-year-old titan has amassed a legacy dwarfing the lifelong pursuits of nearly every professional peer. History continuously whispers that the ravenous starvation-forging ultimate conquerors inevitably fades once monumental triumphs finally satiate their souls. Such tragic tales plague virtuoso musicians, brilliant painters, corporate titans, and gladiators across every conceivable athletic realm. The vicious desperation creating immortal legends stems directly from the agonizing torment of chasing an unattained, fleeting fantasy. Grasping the universe in one's palms means artificially manufacturing new starvation, a brutal psychological reinvention that even supreme talents routinely fail to execute. Yet, this is precisely where the grand French thesis begins to hopelessly fracture and decay. No trace of apathy exists while trading blows with the Serbian king. Zero indifference manifests when battling the Italian sniper. Fatigue and disinterest completely evaporate under the blinding lights of major championship finals or during the brutal closing acts of the sport's greatest festivals. During those chaotic climaxes, he transforms back into the supernatural conqueror holding 7 major titles, electric, bloodthirsty, and delivering miracles that render the concept of boredom utterly laughable. The behavior pinpointed by the outspoken coach transcends mere lethargy. It paints a picture completely divorced from traditional laziness. A far more fascinating phenomenon lurks in the shadows, a psychological activation baseline, representing a minimum danger requirement needed to shock the phenom's dormant nervous system into absolute war mode. The terrifying dilemma tearing at the fabric of a grueling, endless athletic campaign is that a vast majority of mandatory skirmishes fail to offer enough lethal threat to awaken the beast. Third-stage challengers haunting those elite Masters arenas, battling opening duels at major championships against adversaries sitting between 30th and 60th globally, terrifying competitors who suddenly unleashed phenomenal, career-defining performances simply because the ultimate tennis kingpin loomed directly opposite them. Such specific encounters exposed a perilous motivational gap, forging a fatal weakness, causing the young phenom to stumble against fierce rivals over the past 2 dramatic seasons. Returning to that sinister, repetitive cycle, over the preceding 12 months, 4 distinct adversaries successfully dethroned the legendary hero during prestigious 1,000-level competitions before the championship rounds. David Goffin claiming Miami 2025, alongside Cameron Norrie's Paris heist, Daniil Medvedev ravaging Indian Wells 2026, and Sebastian Korda dominating Miami 2026. 4 separate warriors abruptly halting his glorious campaigns prematurely, seemingly capitalizing on whatever mysterious curse renders the prodigy desperately vulnerable before ultimate title showdowns. Yet, a fascinating hidden truth entirely shatters the reality of these startling defeats. Each of those 4 triumphant challengers, the Giant Slayers, suffered immediate, crushing losses during their absolute next tournament appearances. 0 members of that victorious quartet captured the ultimate trophy, nor reached the final. After slaying the paramount global leader, they instantly regressed to their standard, mediocre forms, whispering that a profound psychological anomaly haunts the prodigy's opening tournament battles. Superior athletes never truly outclassed the Spanish sensation. Instead, ordinary athletes momentarily transcended their mortal limits to defeat him, fueled by supreme inspiration and absolutely zero expectations against a lethargic superstar whom legendary minds desperately attempted to decipher, seeking reasons why the phenom appeared so completely disengaged from the battlefield. Such a dangerously acute affliction demands a highly precise remedy, entirely bypassing raw physical prowess, mechanical adjustments, or standard sideline instructions. The real battleground remains the champion's inner state during routine skirmishes. His supreme global ranking dictates he must conquer effortlessly. This realization spirals directly toward the veteran maestro's declaration, highlighting a crucial hidden truth the oblivious masses entirely overlooked. The elder observed the Titan surely regretted projecting such raw vulnerability during that mid-match pause. Manifesting such agonizing inner turmoil served zero tactical purpose. Buried inside that critique lies an ironclad warrior ethos, forged through decades of ruthless tyranny across all battlegrounds, revealing the intensely guarded mental fortress a true conqueror must perpetually maintain. Simmering rage, physical exhaustion, and the desperate yearning to flee remain inescapable demons. Legendary icons never banish. Rather, these monumental figures expertly imprison those dark emotions. Ruling the athletic cosmos demands far more than mere bodily conditioning or strategic genius. It demands relentless, daily dedication to stoicism, executing unyielding discipline during every single heartbeat to ensure roaring internal storms remain completely invisible to the hungry predator. Yet, bleeding his soul upon the Miami sidelines, the prodigy broadcasted his inner chaos. His rival tasted blood, spectators sensed doom, cameras captured tragedy, and the prodigy, possessing 22 years of breathtaking genius, yet discovering eternal greatness's agonizing toll, he shall review that footage 5 years hence with a profoundly shattered, radically reconstructed perspective. A tantalizing mystery emerges, a riddle lacking absolute clarity. Does this represent a fleeting adolescent storm or a deeply fatal permanent psychological fracture? Every immortal king has endured grueling eras where colossal global pressure and punishing tournament grinds violently shattered the delicate mental harmony required for magical performances. The Serbian mastermind survived similar stretches. The Swiss maestro and Spanish bull navigated dark valleys, poetically suffering early tournament casualties against vastly inferior challengers before orchestrating glorious, unstoppable resurrections. Doubts surrounding the young phenom never center upon this era's existence. The crucible remains undeniable. However, terrifying questions arise whether his newly assembled fellowship possesses mystical wisdom to effectively guide him. Back when Ferrero commanded the shadows, a seasoned master occupied the sanctuary, a warrior who personally survived identical torments while reigning as supreme monarch, possessing invaluable memories detailing the exact spiritual alchemy required for recalibration. Armed with 7 grueling years of intimate mastery over the prodigy's complex mind. Tragically, that irreplaceable guardian vanished from the sanctuary. Instead, a fresh guide occupies those walls, barely 4 months deep into the most crushing mentorship imaginable. This glaring imbalance screams for attention, entirely unrelated to perceived flaws haunting Samuel Lopez, but fiercely rooted in the unique beast currently devouring the Titan, that treacherous chasm of depleted hunger, the emotional containment failure, defying the ruthless standard perfectly outlined by his legendary predecessor, forging a horrific ordeal where 7 years of deeply woven psychological mapping prove absolutely essential. Monte Carlo ignites on April 5th, launching the defending monarch's opening clay campaign of the current season. He arrives armed with massive physical recovery, far surpassing any dormant period experienced since early January, retreating into the sacred embrace of his kin, violently purging toxic demons after the Florida collapse. Historically, the crushed brick battlegrounds consistently unlocked his purest mental clarity and unleashed his godlike arsenal. That sluggish earth, dense spheres, and grueling physical demands ultimately reward ironclad endurance and patience far above sheer, explosive violence. Every single element perfectly complements his uniquely engineered style of play. Securing 3 Roland Garros trophies reveals an undeniable truth. The prodigy unlocked a terrifying mastery over crushed brick, producing spectacular triumphs completely unmatched by any rival competitor. Provided the young champion enters Monte Carlo thoroughly revitalized, fiercely driven, and possessing complete psychological harmony, the unrelenting force stepping onto that red dirt will instantly transform his entire Sunshine Double campaign into a faded, profoundly insignificant whisper of the past. However, should that perilous lack of drive Patrick Mouratoglou diagnosed infect his clay campaign, should he appear utterly lifeless during those opening battles across Monte Carlo, Madrid, or Rome, the surrounding narrative will immediately mutate into something completely unprecedented. Suddenly, raging doubts regarding Juan Carlos Ferrero will echo far more fiercely than before. Intense scrutiny inevitably targets whoever guides his darkest moments, questioning whether those specific individuals command absolute, unwavering respect alongside the Greases. The profound wisdom required to elevate the superstar toward that exact standard Rafael Nadal established during his Madrid University speech. dominating every single discussion across professional men's tennis. This upcoming Red Dirt campaign transcends a simple sporting narrative. It offers profound closure to a lingering mystery that countless brilliant tennis minds desperately analyzed for consecutive weeks, entirely unable to accurately identify the creeping shadows. Absolute judgment. While the legendary Mallorcan shielded the youngster with profound sincerity, deep loyalty, and immense admiration, his most critical phrasing offered absolutely no gentle comfort to the struggling champion. He demanded absolute stoicism, burying inner turmoil deep within oneself while remaining utterly silent. Those few words carried devastating truths. That exact ruthless mentality forged 22 major championships, the crushing expectation placed upon a fellow Titan, alongside a silent recognition that immense vulnerability exposed during Miami needed absolute concealment. The Phenom remains 22, boasting 7 monumental major crowns. Endless future triumphs remain inevitable. His sheer, explosive brilliance was never once considered a debatable topic. The true mystery involves his current inner circle, heavily anchored by relatives alongside a freshly assembled coaching staff, desperately struggling to establish a cohesive identity, wondering if this unproven alliance, having usurped his most victorious partnership, can force him toward those unforgiving heights recently demanded by the greatest warrior in history. Monaco begins in exactly 2 weeks. For passionate viewers utterly captivated by the profound psychological warfare unfolding on court rather than meaningless numerical rankings, ensure you secure a subscription and strike that notification bell before departing this digital realm. How do these bold assessments from the legendary Spaniard and the French mastermind strike your mind? Share thoughts below, catching you shortly.